Unit 2, Level 2, Representing Rational Numbers in Different Forms. In this level, we are answering the essential question, how can we represent rational numbers in different forms? We're doing this because representing rational numbers in different forms helps us represent the number in the best form to answer real-world problems about feeding animals and buying food for your shelter. So for example, when you feed animals, you tend to talk in cups, which is usually represented with fractions. But when you buy food, it's usually represented in decimals. So this lesson will briefly review how to take fractions and turn them into decimals. First, we need to talk about rational numbers. A rational number is any number that can be written as a fraction. So, for example, any fraction is a rational number. In this case, the fraction 4/5 is rational. In example 2, 45 hundredths is a decimal, but if you remember, 45 hundredths can be written as 45 over 100, which could be simplified to 9 over 20. That means that this decimal, 45 hundredths, is also a rational number because it can be written as a fraction. It's also important for us to consider what operation is represented by a fraction, because this will help us to convert from fractions to decimals. So when you see a fraction like 3/8, what operation goes with that? Is it adding? Is it subtracting? Does 3/8 represent multiplying, or does 3/8 represent division? 3/8 represents 3 divided by 8. The operation represented by a fraction is always division. So your fill-in is division is represented by a fraction. So how would we solve this? The 3, the number on top, is the dividend, and the 8, the number on the bottom, is always the divisor. So the fraction 3/8 is equivalent to the division problem 3 divided by 8. Remember, the dividend 3 goes on the inside and the divisor 8 goes on the outside. Then we divide. 8 goes into 3 0 times. So 0 times 8 is 0. 3 minus 0 is 3. And then I'm going to rewrite 3 as a decimal. 3 point, and don't forget to put the point up here, 0. And then I take the 0 and I bring it down to make my new dividend 30. 8 goes into 30 3 times. 3 times 8 is 24. If I subtract, I see that I still have a remainder of 6. So I will continue. I add another 0. I bring it down. My new dividend is 60. 8 goes into 60 57 times. 8 times 7 is 56. If I subtract, I again get a remainder. The remainder is 4 this time. So I bring in one more 0. I bring that 0 down, and my new dividend is 40. So 8 goes into 40 exactly 5 times. 5 times 8 is 40, and I have no remainder. So 3/8 can be divided to convert it to a decimal. In this case, 3/8 is equivalent, or has the same value as 375 thousandths. So they're equivalent, and if I were to plot this on a number line, here's a number line that's divided up into tenths, so 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, and so on. And 375 thousandths, now if you'll remember, at first tenths and thousands might not seem to go together, but I can write the decimal 3/10 as 300 thousandths. Remember, if I go out 2 more zeros here, that takes me to the thousandths place. So this is 300 thousandths. 4 tenths is equivalent to 400 thousandths. So 375 thousandths will be in between them. In fact, it'll be about right there, 3/4 of the way between 300 thousandths and 400 thousandths. So you can put your dot right there. Let's look at an example with a negative rational number. Which decimal is equivalent to negative 9/4? In this case, if the fraction is negative, the decimal equivalent will also be negative. You can think of this as dividing a negative by a positive number. Since a negative divided by a positive will be negative, our answer will also be a negative number, even in decimal form. So if we say that negative 9 is the dividend and 4 is the divisor, then we are dividing negative 9 by 4. The dividend goes on the inside and the divisor goes on the outside. Since I know that my answer will be negative, I'm going to put the negative up here now so I don't forget it later. And then we divide. 4 goes into 9 twice. 2 times 4 is 8. I subtract and get a remainder of 1. So I'm going to continue dividing. I will rewrite 9 as 9 and 0 tenths and bring the 0 down to create my new dividend, 10. 4 goes into 10 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. So I still have a remainder. So I rewrite 9 and 0 tenths as 9 and 0 hundredths and bring the 0 down. My new dividend is 20. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. And when I subtract, I have no remainder. So negative 9/4, or negative 9 divided by 4, is equivalent to the decimal negative 2 and 25 hundredths. To plot this on a number line, we would go back again by tenths. So here's a negative part of the number line. Again, skipping by tenths. Negative 1 and 9 tenths, negative 2 tenths, negative 2 and 1 tenth, negative 2 and 2 tenths, and so on. So if you rewrite the tenths as hundredths, since that's what we have in our answer, negative 2 and 25 hundredths, you will see that negative 2 and 25 hundredths will be between negative 2 and 20 hundredths and negative 3 and 30 hundredths. In fact, it'll be exactly halfway between. So we can put the dot right here in between negative 2 and 2 tenths and negative 3 and 3 tenths. For our last example, we're going to use a mixed number and show how you can use this concept of converting a fraction to a decimal to convert cups to decimals with dog food. So a large dog eats 3 and 11/20 cups of food each day. What decimal is equivalent to 3 and 11/20? In your project, you'll be doing this in order to figure out how many bags of dog food you need to buy, since, remember, dog food isn't really usually measured in cups, it's measured in decimals. So, here we go. When you divide a mixed number, you do not need to divide the whole number part of the fraction. So the 3 we're going to set aside for now. We know it will be 3 point something is our answer. And the point something, the decimal part, is what we want to focus on now. So if I just look at the fraction, 11/20, just like on examples 1 and 2, 11, the number on top, is the dividend, and 20, the number on the bottom, is the divisor. So 11/20 is 11 divided by 20. 11 goes on the inside, and the divisor 20 goes on the outside. Now, I will say very quickly that there are probably some of you that have been taught to convert 3 and 11/20 to an improper fraction and then divide. You can still do that method, but this method keeps the numbers smaller. So we're just going to divide the fraction. Here we go. 20 goes into 11 0 times. 0 times 20 is 0. So I still have a remainder of 11. I rewrite 11 as 11 and 0 tenths and bring down the 0 to make my new divisor, or pardon me, my new dividend, which is a 110. So 20 goes into 110 5 times. 5 times 20 is 100. And when I subtract, I have a remainder of 10. Since I have a remainder, I rewrite 11 and 0 tenths as 11 and 0 hundredths. Bring down the 0. And 20 goes into 100 5 times. 5 times 20 is 100. And I have no remainder. So I know that the decimal part of my answer is 55 hundredths. But remember, the large dog doesn't eat 11/20ths of a cup per day. The large dog eats 3 and 11/20ths. So we know that 11/20ths is equivalent to 55 hundredths. 3 and 11/20ths would be equivalent to 3 and 55 hundredths cups per day. To plot our answer on the number line, I have again skipped by tenths. So 3 tenths, or 3 and 0 tenths, 3 and 1 tenth, 3 and 2 tenths, and so on. If I look at this here, the number in the tenths place is 5. So, but there's more than that. It's 3 and 5 tenths, but also 5 hundredths. So I know it's going to be between 3 and 5 tenths and 3 and 6 tenths. Remember, that's the same as saying 3 and 50 hundredths, and also 3 tenths is the same as 3 and 60 hundredths. So 3 and 55 hundredths will go right about here, just a little bit more than halfway between 3.5 or 3 and 5 tenths and 3 and 6 tenths.